points at the end, but I got 3 words for you. You like that?
We know how important the run game is to our success. Like you said, those guys up front, what they're able to do. And then, we take pride in as receivers too, that we got to make plays, get open, and kind of be the jump start to this offense. I know each kind of position group kind of takes that pride, which I think is really good. So I think it's a collective effort of everybody kind of doing their job, not trying to do too much. And, that's the way you have offensive, success.
Just don't try to do too much, as Adam Thielen says there. Love the cliche he throws in at the end. This is Purple Daily. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, and Declan Goff. And as we do leading up to every Vikings game, by the way, Courtney Cronin will join us a couple times next week. She's got some ESPN.com deadline things to take care of. So we'll have her on a couple times next week on Purple Daily. So what we do is confidence, concerns, and curiosities. And I got to think that after a big win against the Packers, it was hard going into that game to find things to be confident about. But I got to think the list might be at least a little bit longer to choose from. Mm-hmm. So let's go around the room. Let's fire up some appropriate music. And let's give our confidences, curiosities, and concerns, or in order: confidence, concern, curiosity. We'll start with the thing you are most confident in going into this game against the Lions, Judd Zulgad.
This is an absolute slam dunk, at least for this week, because it worked so well last week against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, and that is the Vikings are going to run the ball a ton on Sunday. Dalvin Cook is going to probably get 30 touches again. He's probably going to get the ball as far as out of the backfield, running it 25 times. I am absolutely certain, and I'm not confident that this can work every week, because it probably can't. But I am confident game plan-wise, gents, that this will be the game plan again, because it worked well, and it goes in Zim's mind. It goes hand in hand with what? If we possess the ball and run the ball and keep the ball, I keep my young, inexperienced defense off the field. And in Zim's world, what you're really concerned about is how does everything impact one thing? Not your offense, your defense. Completely confident that possession time and Dalvin and running the ball will be atop the Viking menu on Sunday.
My confidence is that I think this is going to be an absolute shootout and a very fun back and forth game. Ooh. Both these defenses ranked 26th and 29th respectively in points allowed. Even and to be honest, I'm leaning towards that Matthew Stafford probably is going to play.
He'll play, I think.
And look, if it's David Blau or Chase Daniel, then yes, this could be a little bit shaky. But I think both these defenses are sibs. Both these offenses can score points. So I'm excited to watch 2 quarterbacks, possibly 3 or 4 different quarterback options here for the Detroit Lions. But they're going to go at it back and forth. I'm excited to see it.
So do we know what the over-under is for this game? I have not looked at the betting line for this game, but it's probably maybe it's closer to 50 because the Vikings can put up some points.
Should be 50 something.
So well, if Dex is looking that up, so I would say the thing that I'm most confident in is the opposite of what Judd just said, and that I am confident that the Lions, watching the film of Dalvin Cook last week, and really Dalvin Cook just like the last 3 years, they're going to say, boys, Dalvin Cook ain't going to be the one that goes off for 200 yards in this one. He ain't going to be the one that breaks 80-yard runs. We are going to make sure we stop Dalvin Cook. Therefore, the ball gets put in Kirk Cousins' hands. And I am confident because it is a pressure-free noon game in an empty stadium in which Kirk Cousins gets to leverage the thing that he loves most, play action. He's legitimately one of the best play action quarterbacks when things are clicking in the NFL. That Kirk Cousins will have a big game. So this is like the third time in this segment all year that I have put Kirk Cousins in the thing I'm most confident in. Here's the other reason, all right? Justin Jefferson, when he doesn't get targeted enough, and last week he only got targeted like 4 times, it feels like Kirk the next week bounces back and makes up for it. I think we're looking at a Justin Jefferson game here, off play action. And according to Pro Football Focus, defensive coverage rating, so just the secondary, 1 through 32, the Lions are 29th in the NFL. The only worst coverage units are the Cowboys, the Jets, and the Raiders. So as bad as the Vikings secondary has been at times, they're only 23rd on this list.
Wow.
The Lions are 29th. So think about, we've watched the Vikings secondary and more specifically cornerbacks for a month and a half, 2 months here, and the Lions have been worse. My guy, Phillip Rivers,
Your guy.
who has an arm dangling by like a thread of a tendon, okay?
Yep.
Throwing sidearm like Uncle Rico. And my guy, Phillip Rivers, last week goes 70% completions, 262, and 3 touchdowns against the Lions.
So no betting line for Bovada or ESPN yet on this game, but
Off the
according to the lines,
Got it.
That makes sense.
according to the lines.com,
Uh-huh.
the over-under is 51.5.
That's
So we're
perfect.
we're going
That's
up.
perfect.
Going up in that way.
Here's why I think that while everything you just said, Phil, makes sense, it's why I think that Mike is going to be inclined not to do it. Because if you tell Zim, all right, play action is going to work perfectly, explosive play, Justin Jefferson, 75-yard touchdown, time of possession, 15 seconds. He'll be like, no, we're going to drive it down
Wait,
the field.
You're saying Mike Zimmer
We'll slow cook it.
Okay, door number 1 and number 2, Mike Zimmer. Door number 1 is an instant touchdown.
Yes.
And door number 2 is more time of possession, but no guarantee of scoring.
But he thinks they will score.
Saying door
Yes.
number 2.
Yes. 6 minutes and 15-second drive times are the goal.
Even if you have to punt, I guess.
Love it.
All right, the thing that you are most concerned about for the Vikings going into this game against the Lions.
This is not going to surprise either one of you guys or the listeners, and it's very, very simple. And we talked about it yesterday. The schedule has turned sort of favorable. Are they going on a win streak? And if so, what's the end game here? Like, are you really going to make a playoff run? And then if you get in the playoffs, are you going to make some noise, or are you going to go on a win streak here and fall just short of a playoff spot, but cost yourself draft position? A week ago, I saw this all very clearly, and I sort of liked the path. And now I'm a little bit confused. And, again, I'll go back to the fact that overall the league stinks. So it's not beyond reason that if the Vikings offensively get hot here, that they could win shootouts. I don't know if that ends up in the playoffs. It just has a feeling of you're accidentally going to get to like 7 wins, and your draft position is not going to be terrible, but it's not going to be nearly as fortuitous as we thought it would be. That's a concern because I see 2020 as a real opportunity to make hay for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I've put out the poll, I think the last couple of games right before kickoff. Vikings fans, what are you rooting for today? And before that game kicked off against the Packers, 60+% of Vikings fans who voted on my Twitter poll, and there's like 2,000 votes, said they're rooting for a loss. So I think my question to those 60% would be, if you rooted for a loss in that game, now that they won, are you still rooting for losses? Or have you said, all right, well, I guess I could get used to maybe beating the Lions and seeing what happens. Another factor in play here too, with like, if you're concerned about the Vikings making a push for 7-9 and being in no man's land in the draft, there seems to be enough interesting quarterback prospects in this draft. Like, obviously Trevor Lawrence feels like an absolute can't miss guy. Like, he feels like an Andrew Luck. He feels like, Joe Burrow, like that. He kind of feels like that type of a guy if he stays healthy, right? So let's say you're getting a 90% shot at a franchise quarterback if you draft number 1 this year. Well, you might be getting, like with Zach Wilson, you might be getting a 50 or 60% shot at a franchise quarterback, and I would still take that shot even if it had to happen middle to late in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit less doom and gloom to be finishing like 6-10 or 7-9 than I probably thought a few weeks ago, because there are decent quarterback prospects, but like the surefire one is
I want to know though,
2-14.
what are the Vikings' intentions here? Much like a dad approached by my daughter's boyfriend, and he asks me for, can I marry your daughter? And the response is always, what are your intentions with my daughter? Vikings, what are your intentions here? Like, are you doing something real, or is this just a fun fling?
Yeah.
I'd like to know here, because a week ago I felt very certain in how I felt about said boyfriend, and now I think he might be allowed.
I like where you're going. All right, Dex, what is the thing you are most concerned about?
So the concern that I have is, and it's not to contradict my confidence, but the Lions do start very fast. They're 7 touchdowns. They've scored 7 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's the most of any quarter this season. They've gotten off to really hot starts. So I do have a little bit of a concern if the Vikings can't basically go toe-to-toe with them early on. You're then going to be playing from behind. You're then going to have Kirk Cousins throwing the football a ton, which we have seen. That's not a good recipe. I believe the stat from ESPN they had the other day, when Kirk Cousins has thrown 35 passes or more for the Vikings in a game, they've never won.
What?
They've never won.
What?
When attempting 35 plus passes.
Hold on a second.
That's a great stat.
I need a minute. I can find that on StatHead.
Okay.
This is worth verifying.
Okay.
That's incredible.
That's a great stat. Dex.
Where did you see that?
I saw it on one of the, I think ESPN Stat Ticker or Cronin might have retweeted one, something of the nature. Basically, if he's throwing a ton of passes, and if you're going to get in a shootout with the Lions, I have very much concerns that you're going to be playing from behind. You're going to ask Kirk Cousins to be doing a ton of work.
Yep.
It freaks me out, man. I hope I'm wrong on that, and maybe I misread it. But in general, if you're throwing that many passes too, that probably means you're behind in the game.
Yeah.
So if that is indeed the case, I have a very huge trepidations with the Vikings possibly having to come back if the Lions get off to a hot start against them.
All right, I'm looking up here. I got Kirk Cousins. Was it as a Viking or career?
As a Viking.
Okay, so what was his first year with the Vikings? 2018. We're gonna. I feel like one of these guys, like John King or somebody, like, hold on a second, I gotta pull up the counties. Gotta pull up the counties in Pennsylvania.
Okay, you see 42 pass attempts there. The last time there was 42 pass attempts, he won the game.
Okay, what we have here with Cousins is a quarterback, and we're counting the statistics here.
All right, here it is. Oh man.
Is it true?
So this is regular season and playoffs. Kirk Cousins as a Viking, 35 pass attempts or more. They have won some games. They have won some games here.
Okay, they've won a few.
You
And,
said
one, two, three, four.
I just sorted 2 on Pro Football Reference, just like his attempt record.
The record is bad. Like it's
It's not
definitely
good.
way below 500. It looks like they've won 5 and they've lost. They are 5-10-1 according to this. When he throws at least 35 passes.
Okay, so my mistake on the statistic. Regardless, 2/3 of those games you end up losing, right? If they're 5-10-1, if that's indeed it during his Vikings tenure.
Yeah,
I'd be freaked out if they can't go toe to toe in the first quarter.
but that's still an interesting stat. I would have been shocked if they were winless. Then it's even more evidence. Like, why are you paying a guy 30? You're paying a guy $33 million. You can't trust to throw 30 plus passes. All right, the thing that I'm the most concerned about. Brought this up to you guys on the Mackey and Judd podcast, our other show. I'm most concerned about Everson Griffin and or Adrian Peterson getting the Vikings motivational bug and going off. And I know that those guys, like especially Adrian, are near the end of their careers, and Peterson has just been terrible for them the last 5 games. He's like 2.5 yards a carry or something.
Famine.
Yeah.
No feast.
But where's the feast?
No feast anymore.
Is the feast going to come? Like, is that dude going to rip off a 35-yard touchdown run?
Early on, maybe?
Is Everson Griffin going to, feel the motivation because Mike Zimmer said that he's only a good player, not a great player, and sacked Kirk Cousins 2 or 3 times? I'm a little bit concerned that Mike Zimmer has unwittingly riled up Everson Griffin, and Adrian Peterson wants to stick it to the Vikings once again. So
I like
something to watch.
If I am the Lions game planning for Sunday, here's one thing I do. I don't line Griffin up consistently all the time at right end. I do what Zim did with him against the Saints. I move him inside at times. Because I think Dakota Dozier might have some trouble with that speed. I'm just saying. I get creative here because I think if you put Griffin in position to have a big game, the potential exists.
Yeah.
Peterson, I don't know anymore. I don't think so.
The thing you're most curious about, Judd?
Okay, this curiosity is part honest and it's part questioning if this does indeed happen. Ezra Cleveland, in his second start ever, I think, in his life at right guard on Sunday against the Packers was damn good, right? If he continues to be as stout and as solid as he was at right guard on Sunday, that's a great sign. I get that. But my curiosity also stems to this. How is he not playing previously?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a 2nd round pick. So it's not like, oh man, he was a 7th round pick and we just didn't know. You were playing Drew Samia. Like that's football malpractice. And I felt bad for Drew, but he shouldn't have been playing.
I would disagree with that. I think they ran him out there for a couple of games to see if he could play, and he can't. And now he's hurt and whatever.
But the point is, if Cleveland continues to play well, then day one there was a spot for him somewhere,
or didn't find
it?
Or is it possible that that he didn't have preseason, didn't have anything, that he just needed to practice and be ingrained in an NFL system until he was ready 7 weeks in?
Right, but you played Samia.
I know, but you didn't know that Samia was bad until you played him too.
Right, but I needed to see him for like 1 quarter from the press box before I'm like, pull the plug. Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? Elflein I get because he's not great, but he was established and he had played for you. So his opening day start actually made more sense to me. But if Cleveland continues to thrive here, it's a great sign. But I also want to get this kid to left tackle as soon as possible.
Dex, what are you most curious about?
Yeah, it piggies back off both of my concern. And last week, Kirk Cousins only threw 14 pass attempts. So I'm curious if what is the ratio for Kirk Cousins, and especially if you are going to indeed get in a shootout with Detroit. Typically, when again, it's the counterproductive of the 35, 45 plus pass attempts. If you're only throwing 10 to 20 passes, that means your running game's working. You didn't have to rely on Kirk. So I'm just curious on his pass ratio. And, we've always wanted him to spread the ball out a little bit more to guys like Justin Jefferson and not going to Thielen all the dang time. But I'm curious just on the amount of passes and how much they trust Kirk on Sunday. Did they take the kid gloves off or not?
I almost feel like teams are going to make them do it. Like this, I feel like last week was a timeout. Part of it was wind. Part of it was a timeout. Part of it was like, hey, if they're not going to tackle Dalvin, just keep handing off.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get all those factors. I mean, the wind itself was reason enough for Aaron Rodgers to not throw the ball down the field. But now you're going to be playing indoors. They're going to key in. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to throw the ball if they want to win games this season. There are going to be a few exceptions, and last week was one of them. The thing that I am the most curious about, Judd already alluded to it in his concern, but it's if they win, what does the rest of the season start to look like? If they win, they move to 3-5. They
tie the Lions, right?
They would tie the Lions.
Detroit's
3-4 right now. Yep. So they would tie the Lions. They move essentially out of the basement of the division.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have a Monday night game against the Bears. And the Bears have just an absolute disaster quarterback situation. The Bears will probably still be favored in that game. And then you get Dallas, which can't stop anybody, and they hate their coach. And then you get 2 more home games. A win against Detroit starts to, like last week, they beat the Packers. It was kind of a pop-up until they prove otherwise. If you beat the Lions now and you look at the schedule, you can start to see a path to playoffs and getting back into the division race a little bit.
What are your intentions? What are your intentions with my football team?
The team's intentions are to win. The players on the field and the coaches. My intention is for a well-intentioned, hard-fought game that results in a loss. And I'm not going to apologize for rooting for that because I want long-term success in a Super Bowl for this franchise. And the higher they draft, the better chance they get to pick a quarterback that they want.
If you win this game and go on some type of streak, which is certainly possible, all right, then what we can't see from anybody is anything close to what they did against the Falcons again. Like
you're saying, if you're going to beat Detroit, then you
better damn well go. I mean, don't come back to me with, well, Jacksonville gets paid too. No, if you beat Detroit, you beat Jacksonville. And if you don't, you get ripped.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because that was a disgusting display of football against the Falcons.
And you think about, let's say they beat they beat the Lions, and then you start to look back at some of those games like, well, why didn't you beat the Titans in the last possession? Why didn't you beat the Seahawks?
Yeah,
why didn't you stop Russell Wilson with no timeouts? Why didn't you beat a crappy Falcons team?
Yes.
You could be 6-2.
Yes.
If you had done those things.
Yes.
Or 5-3 if you give them even the Titans loss or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting woulda, shoulda, coulda time for the Vikings here. And things will be much clearer at the end of the Lions game, I think, for like what their intentions are.
Yeah, we'll if they lose, for sure. If they win, then yeah. My point at that juncture is don't give me any more crap.
Yep. So, all right, well, that's a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we'll see you right after the game is over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Purple Daily Podcast for Vikings Vent Line. Later.